The constant drip, drip, drip of details hasn't amounted to any major pushback, though. So when is enough for the GOP? Joining me now to discuss, Neera Tanden, President and CEO of the Center for American Progress. She's also a former senior advisor to President Obama and Senator Clinton. And here with me on set, former Republican Congresswoman Nan Hayworth, who sits on the Independent Women's Forum Board of Directors. My mouth is ahead of me. It wants the weekend to start, so it's going fast. Pardon me, ladies.
Not at all.
Neera, I want to start with you. You're watching this unfold, and you're seeing the news of this meeting. What's going through your mind when you're looking back to June of 2016?
Well, I think what's fascinating about that moment in time is what came after. I mean, you've obviously focused on the summer, but you realize that John Podesta's emails were hacked, the DNC's emails were hacked, the John Podesta's emails were hacked by Russian intel, distributed on the internet, used by the Trump campaign day in and day out to attack Hillary Clinton. And then within weeks of the election, Jared Kushner is trying to set up a back channel with the Russian ambassador, and a back channel that would be impervious to intelligence forces. I have to say that we have gone way beyond coincidences to real evidence of collusion. And you know, I'm glad we have a special prosecutor who can look at all of this, because it does seem like it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Neera, your emails were released as part of the Podesta attack.
Yes, and instead of Republicans coming forward and saying, you know, one Republican did, Marco Rubio said that he would not use, he would not traffic in those emails because they were basically leaked by Russian forces. You know, every Republican basically stood by and celebrated the release of the emails. And now we learn that the Trump forces, Trump campaign, Donald Trump Jr. were meeting with Russians who basically said they wanted to help the Trump campaign and hurt Hillary Clinton. So they had knowledge of all of this, and didn't, you know, they all put their partisan politics first and their country second.
Let's just fill our viewers in what they're seeing on TV. It's a sight you don't normally see, which is Air Force One in Newark, New Jersey. Just landed. Donald Trump will be going to spend the weekend in Bedminster at his golf course there. And of course, Newark is much closer than JFK, which is where we normally see the president touch down. Nan, there's a struggle among Republicans to figure out a way to defend this. I was talking to Congressman Lee Zeldin yesterday. Just take a listen to what he was saying. I want to ask you about what the president just said a moment ago. Most people would have taken that meeting. It's called opposition research. Do you agree?
The email that was sent should have been a clear red flag that the meeting shouldn't have happened. It's important to note that with everything that we know now, that there was nothing that took place at the meeting that was illegal.
So that's the argument now. There was nothing that took place that was illegal. You know, I sympathize with Republicans who are just trying to, you know, not get themselves involved in the president's daily dramas. But I have a hard time believing that if this was any other president, any other Democratic president, they would be going crazy right now. They'd be going nuts.
Well, Katie, look, we witness it all the time. You know, partisanship is part of politics, not just in America. Republicans don't have to defend anything. I mean, the simple statement is that nothing illegal occurred. And the second statement is that we do have, you know, the special investigator, Robert Mueller, who will elucidate whatever needs to be elucidated. And there's all kinds of cooperation going on within the Congress to try to get this done.
What about those who argue that Republicans are putting party over country?
I disagree completely with that. I don't think anyone involved in these discussions or these gyrations politically is trying to do anything other than what they think is best for our society and our country. And in fact, they are focused on an agenda, as is the president. He just signed the VA accountability bill last week or maybe the week before. That's actually a big deal for a part of our government that was absolutely failing veterans under the previous administration. This is great stuff. You know, we're trying to get health care right. We're trying to get the economy going again. We're trying to put Americans back to work. It's good stuff. So nobody should be sidetracked by politics. And I think things are proceeding as they should.
Neera, do you agree with Congressman Sherman when he says that the president should be impeached? He's drawing up articles.
You know, I think we have a special prosecutor who will determine the facts, and I look forward to those facts. As obviously there does seem to be evidence today that suggests at least obstruction of justice by the way the president actually dealt with Comey and other actions he's taken. But can I just respond for one moment to the statements just made? I just have to say, I find it incredible that the idea that Republicans would not attack a Democrat if the shoe was on the other foot. Why should we take anything this administration says seriously about this meeting when they haven't been clear about this meeting? We're learning about this meeting in July. Then answers on this meeting changed 3 times in 3 days. Why do we believe that no information was exchanged simply because it was said when facts come out day after day after day that point to actual lies told not only by White House staff, but Jared Kushner, Donald Trump Jr. I have to say, you know, I hope Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner all testify in public to what happened here and under oath. And if they refuse to do so, it seems to me that we know we can't count on what they're saying now.
Nan, yes or no? Do you want to hear them testify?
Donald Trump Jr.'s already said he'd be happy to.
All of them?
Yeah, I think that I'm sure that everyone will cooperate
publicly,
with the special investigator.
Publicly.
Neera, how about that? And I want to hear more about the Ukraine's relationship with the Clinton campaign.
Guys, we gotta leave it there. We will continue this conversation.
Happy to do that
sure,
anytime.
At another time.